Hello, what's up, everybody? My name is Bianca, and I am so happy that you have found my channel. Welcome. We're going to watch the trial of Chad Daybell, week one. I am fascinated with psychopathy and the human brain, psychology as a whole, and that is why often I find myself interested in cases such as these. If you're like me and you also like to watch criminal trials, maybe watch Emily D. Baker, your favorite YouTuber, or Peter Tragos, the lawyer you know, and then you follow the case during the week, and then on the weekend, we're like, well, now what? What do I do now? Well, I always seek for more information on the case. I want to get familiarized with it. I am fascinated by court, the court proceedings, the whole thing. So I decided, why not watch the trial from beginning to end, week one. Let's go, starting with the judge's first appearance. So let me share this screen here. And here we go. I'm going to make myself a little smaller. Oh, and by the way, I'm Bianca, and this behind me here is Whisper. You're going to get to know Whisper better. But let's go to day one. I'm going to press play and feel free to comment or do a live chat, subscribe, like, all the things. Do all the things. Feel free and let's get it done. Hello, Your Honor. Your Honor.
653. Here. 686. Present. 7.
Just come make sure everybody's there.
All right, thank you.
Hello,
Now that
Judge.
you've been sworn as jurors to try this case, I'll go over with you what will be happening. I will describe how the trial will be conducted and what we will be doing. At the end of the trial, I'll give you more detailed guidance on how you are to reach your decision. Because the state has the burden of proof, it goes first. After the state's opening statement, the defense may make an opening statement or may wait until the state has presented its case. The state will offer evidence that it says will support the charges against the defendant. The defense may then present evidence but is not required to do so. If the defense does present evidence, the state may then present rebuttal evidence. This is evidence offered to answer the defense's evidence. After you have heard all of the evidence, I'll give you additional instructions on the law. After you've heard the instructions, the state and the defense will each be given time for closing arguments. In their closing arguments, they will summarize the evidence to help you understand how it relates to the law. Just as the opening statements are not evidence, neither are the closing arguments. After the closing arguments, you will leave the courtroom together to make your decision. During your deliberations, you will have with you my instructions, the exhibits admitted into evidence, and any notes taken by you in court.
Okay. I'm gonna fast forward. So pretty much the opening statements are not evidence. I thought they had to be like based on evidence, or the closing statements are not evidence either. So what he's saying is the lawyers are gonna talk, and then there's gonna be evidence presented after the opening. Then you're gonna get jury instructions, and then you're gonna get closing arguments, or maybe closing arguments, jury instructions. Then you're gonna deliberate. So we're gonna fast forward a little bit to see the first opening statement.
Claims or positions of any part.
The state goes first. Where is it?
For continuing criminal transactions in Madison and Fremont counties in Idaho.
Oh, that's
That locally and
wait.
Any place mentioned in the testimony without an order for the court to do so. You must not consult any books, records, internet, or any other source of information unless I specifically authorize you to do so. Fifth, do not read about the case in newspapers. Do not listen to radio or television broadcasts about the trial. You must base your verdict solely on what.
Let's just see what he's saying, because some of the comments here are saying he just said that they're seeking the death penalty. If he's found guilty, there will be a separate phase of the trial. to determine if he gets the death penalty. Okay, I thought the judges read the death penalty as one option. They got him in white with the sun just drowning him out. Do we need video if they won't zoom in? I can't see. True. Okay, so if you don't know what this case is about, this is Chad Daybell, known as the Doomsday Triple Murder. So who died? Chad Daybell was married and his wife died. Then he remarried Lori Daybell, uh, whose husband died, and her two children as well. So the prosecutor is saying this is a case fueled by power, sex, money, and apocalyptic spiritual beliefs. As members of the Latter Day Church of Jesus Christ, I believe that's how it is called. Uh, they went a little overboard with their beliefs, thinking Chad would proclaim himself the leader of the last 144,000 chosen by God, and that he was the one with Lori supposed to lead them. And you're going to hear all the things that they actually were teaching other people, and that I don't know if they believed themselves or if she believed it, he didn't. But there in Idaho, yes, there is a death penalty. So if Chad gets convicted, then there's going to be another proceeding to determine if that's going to be his actual fate. So let's see what the judge says about this, and then hopefully we're going to start with the opening statements.
What is presented in court and not upon any newspaper, radio, television, or other media account of what may have happened. Each day you will be required, as I mentioned, to sign an affirmation that you will follow this admonition of the court. That concludes the court's first instructions then, and as I mentioned, you will be providing copies of those when you deliberate for further reference. Next, at this time then, I am going to have the clerk read the amended and redacted indictment to you.
The indictment, okay.
Madam Clerk, if you're ready to read the amended indictment, please do that at this time.
In the District Court of the 7th Judicial District of the State of Idaho and in for the County of Fremont. State of Idaho plaintiff versus Chad Daybell defendant, case number CR 22211623, amended indictment. Chad Daybell is accused by the grand jury of Fremont County of this indictment as follows. Count 1, conspiracy to commit first-degree murder and grand theft by deception. The defendants, Chad Daybell and or Lori Vallow and or Alex Cox, deceased, and or other co-conspirators, both known and unknown, on or between the dates of October 26, 2018, and continuing until January 15, 2020, in the County of Madison, State of Idaho, and elsewhere, including Fremont County, Idaho, and as part of a continuing criminal transaction and common scheme or plan in Madison and Fremont counties, Idaho. Did willfully and knowingly combine, conspire, confederate, and agree to commit murder in the first degree of Tylee Ryan and to commit grand theft by deception. Count 2, first degree murder. The defendant, Chad Daybell, on or between the 8th and 9th day of September 2019 in the County of Madison, State of Idaho, and as part of a common scheme or plan for continuing criminal transactions in Madison and Fremont counties in Idaho, were concerned in the commission of a first-degree murder and did aid and abet in its commission, or not being present, advised and encouraged its commission, or by command compelled another to commit the crime, and did so with malice aforethought, and did so willfully, deliberately, and with premeditation, which resulted in the death of a human being, to wit, either kill Tylee Ryan and or assist in the killing of Tylee Ryan, and or did encourage the killing of Tylee Ryan, and or did command another to kill Tylee Ryan in violation of federal. Count 3, conspiracy to commit first-degree murder and grand theft by deception. The defendants, Chad Daybell and/or Lori Noreen Vallow and/or Alex Cox, deceased, and/or other co-conspirators, both known and unknown.
Alex Cox, who is deceased, is Lori Vallow's brother, who was suspected to act as a kind of like an executor of her wishes, no matter what it was. So we don't really know the facts about him. He wasn't tried, he died. So we're gonna see what comes out about him as well. But just making a comment of who they're referring to.
Between the dates of October 26, 2018, and continuing until January 15, 2020. Excuse me. In the county of Madison, state of Idaho, and elsewhere, including Fremont County, Idaho, and as part of a continuing criminal transaction and common scheme or plan in Madison and Fremont counties, Idaho, that willfully and knowingly combine, conspire, confederate, and agree to commit murder in the first degree of Joshua Jackson Vallow, hereinafter.
And what is going on in Idaho, guys? Seriously.
For J.J. Vallow, and to commit grand theft by deception. Count 4, first-degree murder. The defendant, Chad Daybell, on or between the 8th and 9th day of September 2019, in the county of Madison, state of Idaho, and as part of a common scheme or plan for continuing criminal transactions between Madison and Fremont counties in Idaho, were concerned in the commission of a first-degree murder and did aid and abet in its commission, were not being present, advised and encouraged its commission, or by command compelled another to commit the crime, and did so with malice aforethought, and did so willfully, deliberately, and with premeditation, which resulted in the death of a human being. To it, did either kill J.J. Vallow and or assist in the killing of J.J. Vallow, and or did encourage the killing of J.J. Vallow, and or did command another to kill J.J. Vallow in violation of Idaho Code. Count 5, conspiracy to commit first-degree murder. The defendants, Chad Daybell and or Lori Noreen Vallow and or Alex Cox, deceased, and or other co-conspirators, both known and unknown, on or between the dates of October 26, 2018, and continuing until January 15, 2020, in the county of Fremont, state of Idaho, and elsewhere, including Madison County, Idaho, and as part of a continuing criminal transaction in common scheme or plan in Fremont and Madison counties, Idaho, did willfully and knowingly combine, conspire, confederate, and agree to commit murder in the first degree of Tammy Daybell, and did combine or conspire to commit murder, and one or more of such persons did enact to effect the object, combination, or conspiracy. Count 6, first-degree murder. The defendant, Chad Daybell, on October 18 to 19, 2019, in the county of Fremont, state of Idaho, was concerned in the commission of first-degree murder and did aid and abet in its commission, or not being present, advised and encouraged its commission, or by command compelled another to commit the crime, and did so with malice aforethought, and did so willfully, deliberately, and with premeditation, which resulted in the death of a human being. To wit, did either kill Tammy Daybell, and or assist in the killing of Tammy Daybell, and or did encourage the killing of Tammy Daybell, and or did command another to kill Tammy Daybell in violation of Idaho Code. Count 7, insurance fraud. The defendant, Chad Daybell, on or about October 19, 2019 through October 30, 2019, in the county of Madison, state of Idaho, did with the intent to defraud or deceive an insurer for the purpose of obtaining any money or benefit, insurer or other person, a statement as part of or in support of a claim for payment or benefit, knowing that such statement contained false, incomplete, or misleading information concerning any fact or thing material to such claim, to wit, did present and or cause to be presented an insurance beneficiary form to Life Map Assurance Company in violation of Idaho code. Count 9, insurance fraud. That the defendant, Chad Daybell, on or about October 19, 2019 through October 31, 2019, in the County of Madison, State of Idaho, did with the intent to defraud or deceive an insurer for the purpose of obtaining any money or benefit, insurer, or other person, a statement as part of or in support of claim for payment or benefit, knowing that such statement contained false, incomplete, or misleading information concerning any fact or material thing to such claim. To wit, it present and or cause to be presented an insurance beneficiary form to Primerica Life Insurance Company in violation of Idaho code. Signed as a true bill on the 24th day of May, 2021, and signed by the deputy presiding.
So it looks like one of the pieces of evidence against Chad is that there was some change in the life insurance of his wife right before she died. So he's also being charged for insurance fraud. And one interesting thing that I'm just going to pause here because she said it in the beginning. She said that he was acting with deception. And one thing that I do want to observe while we're watching this whole case go is the psychopathy section of it. Like, does he fit the profile of a psychopath? What are the characteristics that a psychopath has? What is a psychopath? Because for me, the human brain, right? The human brain that has the ability to feel empathy and compassion for others is different from the brain of the psychopath. Not for me, but this is just the way it is. It's science, it has been proven. So the psychopath's brain is lacking the amygdala, or the amygdala is small, very small. So they don't have the ability to feel compassion and empathy. Like, if you ever watch Dexter, I love Dexter because Dexter uh, is always voicing his internal monologue. So he's always saying, "If I had the ability to feel, I guess this is a moment where I would show some compassion." Like, he doesn't have the ability to feel. So for us, regular human beings who are not psychopaths, watching a case like this is absolutely impossible to imagine. It's unthinkable. It's out of our realm of possibilities, right? Because to imagine the cruelty and the amount of deception, the amount of um, lying to yourself and to others to get one goal, despite what you need to do to achieve it, even if that meant extreme cruelty to children, or killing everybody else in your way. Uh, the only way that I can comprehend that is looking at a mind of a psychopath. And one of the things that they are masters of is deception. Masters of deception. Let me read this paragraph here under some of the characteristics, right? One of the big warning signs of a psychopath is a person who seems to be especially skilled at the art of deception. Psychopaths are masters of deception. They use distortions of truth. So they use some truth, but they distort it. Gaslighting. Gaslighting is fantastic. We're going to talk about it. And other dishonest tactics to emotionally manipulate others and falsely represent the facts. Now, if you have ever encountered a psychopath in your life, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Um, I had the pleasure of encountering a psychopath, and I only say pleasure. It was very painful. Uh, that happened. The emotional manipulation happened over and over. But after, thank God, it was over and time passed, and I was healed from it. I could appreciate the lesson, the education that I got from meeting one in person. And they're everywhere, guys. They're not just the Chad Daybells. They're not just the people in prison, the people committing the heinous crimes that we talk about. They are in society. Psychopaths are in our society. A lot of times they don't go to the bitter end of acting in criminal manners, but they just have the inability to feel compassion and empathy like other people. And they also have these coping mechanisms that they have learned because they understand they're different and they watch people, they mimic people. So deception, distorting the truth, making you feel like you're crazy, gaslighting, like saying a lot, saying things but not really making any sense, or making you feel like, okay, maybe he's right. I'm doubting myself here. So these are things that they use to cope with other humans. Okay. Unfortunately, psychopaths in treatment may use these deceptive tactics to fool counselors and treatment providers into thinking they have improved. One study found the psychopaths with the highest treatment success were most likely to reoffend. So, one other thing that I learned, I'm not sure if that still applies. If you do know, please make a comment. Is the fact that psychopaths have um, there's no cure for it, right? There are different types of personality disorders that have cures for it, but psychopathy is just the way it is. Like, it's a brain thing. Your brain's not going to go back and learn how to have empathy because you're lacking that amygdala. So, these psychopaths that were in treatment, they're just like, okay, what do I got to do to make this lady, this counselor, believe me so I can get the hell out of here and go back to killing or doing whatever I wanted to do. So I just wanted to point it out because I do want to um, talk about this, the psychopathy traits, as we're watching Chad Daybell's trial to see, do we think, to form an opinion, do we think that Chad could be a psychopath? Do we think he's guilty? What do we think? As of right now, the beginning of a trial, everybody has a presumption of innocence and everybody has the right of having their day in court. So no matter how we can hate him or think that we already know everything about the case, it's interesting to watch the process because, God forbid, if anybody is ever wrongly accused, you want them to have the right to have the process as well. So going back to the court now, deception is number one. Deception is the number one trait that we found so far with the indictment being read. Still under the indictment.
So grand juror acting as presiding grand juror in Fremont County, state of Idaho. And to these charges, the defendant has entered a plea of not guilty.
All right, thank you very much, Madam.
So there
Clerk,
were
for
7
reading
or
the
8
Drafted amended
8
indictment. In this case, again, I will advise the jurors, remember the indictment is a description of charges. It is not evidence.
Got it.
That concludes the court's opening instructions and the reading of the indictment. The jury's been sworn as well. The next matter we would take up then are opening statements. We inquire of the state, is the state ready to proceed with openings?
Yes, Your Honor.
Who will be giving the opening statement?
I will remember.
Very well. Mr. Wood, you may present your opening.
Your Honor, may I inquire, is there a hand mic so that I may address the jury?
I think we do have one. Might take us a moment.
What did you say? Me inquire about hand money?
And then I do have a PowerPoint attached.
All right.
Hand. I don't know what he said. Maybe like a hand, like a remote control for the monitor. That's what he wants.
May I proceed your phone?
Go ahead.
Yes, it's for the HDMI. May I proceed, Your Honor?
Yes, you.
Go.
2 dead children buried in the defendant Chad Daybell's backyard in September of 2019. The next month, his wife is found dead in their marital bed. 17 days after the death of his wife, Tammy Daybell, this defendant is photographed laughing and dancing on a beach in Hawaii at his wedding to Lori Vallow, a woman who was his mistress and the mother of the children buried in the graves on his property. 3 dead bodies. This defendant believed he had a right beyond the ordinary. When he had a chance at what he considered his rightful destiny, he made sure that no person or no law would stand in his way. His desire for sex, money, and power led him to pursue those ambitions. And this pursuit led to the deaths of his wife and Lori's 2 innocent children. Chad Daybell is an author who wrote books about the apocalypse. During this trial, you will hear a story more troubling. And the story is real. Chapter 1. The defendant was a seemingly ordinary man. You'll see that he craved significance. He worked in journalism and he worked as a sexton in a graveyard. He married his wife Tammy in 1990 after meeting at Brigham Young University, and they settled in Utah. As a full-time homemaker and mother, Tammy's love for her family was boundless. Together, Tammy and the defendant started a small publishing company, which Tammy supported in many ways. They had 5 children together. They moved to Idaho, where Tammy became a beloved school librarian. She was devoted to service, her community, and her faith. But for this defendant, that ordinary existence was not enough. Chapter 2. Lori Vallow was a homemaker from Arizona. Your Honor, this mic just.
Sorry, Mr. Let's see if we get a replacement mic.
I think I got it working now.
Okay,
I noticed that the PowerPoint is not up.
yeah, look, I think your mic's off. Yeah,
Okay, I didn't turn it off this time, so
you might have it.
I do like this attorney. I think he's very clear and his cadence is very calm and powerful at the same time.
You want to confirm the screen as well?
Your Honor, it's up on the screen and it's plugged in the HDMI. I'm not sure why it's not transferred. I don't know if there's any one person out with that.
Let's see if we can get some help to maybe see if we can get the signal to work on that.
Okay, blah, 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 blah. While they're talking about that, he also mentioned 2 other traits of a psychopath. He talked about the disregard for rules, laws, and norms, right? That Chad was willing to do anything, and the need for power and control. So those are 2 other
Sorry.
traits of a
Can I
psychopath.
proceed?
We're
Yeah,
gonna
let's
go
finish
a little
that.
bit further into that afterwards.
Check.
Here.
Okay, that's,
Apologies for the interruption. That didn't down.
Come on, guys, let's go. It's just acknowledge.
Chapter 2.
Okay.
Lori Vallow was a homemaker from Arizona. She was married to her 4th husband, Charles Vallow, and she was the mother to Tylee Ryan and JJ Vallow. Tylee was a normal, vibrant teenage girl. She loved her friends. You'll hear that she loved her Jeep. She loved Chipotle. She loved her little brother, JJ. JJ was a 7-year-old boy on the autism spectrum. He required extensive special care needs. He loved his sister. You'll hear about a pivotal date that set in motion the deaths of Tammy, Tylee, and JJ. October 26, 2018. That was a day when Chad Daybell and Lori Vallow met at a religious conference in St. George, Utah, where they were introduced by a mutual acquaintance. At this time, both still married to other spouses. That introduction set in motion the reality you're going to hear about. We know what happened next through the defendant's own words. You'll hear. Though both married, Chad and Lori began to have an affair. You will hear excerpts from the defendant's extended text messages to Lori that reveal his mindset and his motivations. In his thirst for sex, power, and money, Chad created an alternate reality where they called themselves James and Elena, names that Chad claimed were from past lives they had put together. The defendant's text messages reveal their story of lust and their plan for a future together. Chad Daybell wrote that upon meeting Lori Vallow, he experienced a happiness unmatched by anything else in his 50 years. He was captivated by her appearance, so much so he said she was out of his league. You will hear evidence in his own words, how he was taken by her beauty and spoke about their sexual encounters on many occasions. More than anything else, Chad's obsession with Lori was rooted in her adoration for him. She was the mirror reflecting the grandeur he saw in himself. He called her an exalted goddess. He told her in writing that she had returned to earth to perform a special mission. And part of that mission included being with him. They soon came together and turned their dreams into a plan for the future, one free from what they called obstacles. And those obstacles were Tylee, JJ, and Cant. Chapter 3. You'll hear that in the world that Chad and Lori planned for themselves, they identified those who stood in the way of their dream as dark. Their spouses, Lori's own children, and any who oppose them were labeled sometimes as dark spirits or even zombies. This was more than an alleged belief of right-wing labor. The evidence will show that it was a convenient narrative that dehumanized people who stood in their way and who were labeled as obstacles. This narrative gave them the pretext to remove people from this world for their own good. Chad and Lori preached that only through spiritual intervention, what they sometimes called casting, sometimes through burning, or even through death, that these dark spirits be cleansed. Enter Alex Cox, Lori's devoted brother. Chad and Lori manipulated Alex with promises of spiritual rewards. They wielded their influence over Alex, drawing him into their plotting and planning of their own future. After the deaths of Tylee, JJ, and Tammy, Chad Daybell gave Alex a blessing. This blessing was reported by Lori, who was present. And in that blessing, he said to Alex, "You have earned the privilege to be a member of their exclusive religious group." And he also said to him, "You have already assisted us in ways that can never be repaid." But you will also see other text messages. Chad and Lori discussed more earthly concerns, that Alex could be the one to implicate them. Alex knew this as well. Shortly before he died, on December 12, 2019, he told his wife, Zulana Pastenis, who you will hear from, he was afraid he was going to be Chad and Lori's fallback. Chapter 4. Once their calculated plan was devised, it only took months to execute and remove perceived obstacles in Chad Daybell's path to a new life. Charles Vallow, Lori's husband, who was labeled as dark by the defendant, was shot and killed by Alex Cox in Arizona. Lori stood to gain $1 million, money that could fund Chad and Lori's future. Yet following Charles's death, Lori Vallow awaited a $1 million life insurance payout that never came, only to learn that the beneficiary was no longer her. Upon learning she would not receive that insurance money, Lori would text Chad, "I'll still get the $4,000 a month from SS, meaning Social Security." Chad replied to her in a text that read, "It will be interesting to see if it got changed after he had 2 bullets in his chest." Tylee Ryan, also branded dark and a zombie, was last seen on September 8, 2019. Subsequent investigations revealed the horrifying truth. Her remains, charred and dismembered, were found in a grave on Chad Daybell's property. Without Charles's $1 million in insurance money to support them, Lori Vallow continued to illegally receive Tylee's Social Security benefits, provided after the death of Tylee's biological father, who had been Lori's third husband. According to this defendant, J.J. Vallow, Lori's son, was also possessed. After he was labeled as a dark entity, his fate was no less tragic than his sister's. His young life was also claimed. Later, his bound body was discovered buried in Chad's backyard, his death by suffocation. Yet while JJ was missing, Lori continued to illegally receive JJ's Social Security benefit, money provided by Charles Vallow's dad. Tammy Daybell, a vivacious, healthy mother, was another individual labeled as a dark spirit to be removed. On October 9th of 2019, she reported being shot at night near her home by a man covered in black. She thought it was a paintball gun. On October 19th, 10 days later, she died in her own home with her husband present. This was soon after an increase in the value of her life insurance to more than $400,000. This defendant rapidly cashed in that life insurance and began looking for condos in Hawaii with Lori. You'll see the rental application he submitted for a couple with no kids. Medical examiners would later determine that the only reasonable explanation for Tammy's death was not of natural causes, but rather a homicide. In fact, you will hear from multiple witnesses that Chad predicted multiple times that Tammy would die in early death. Chapter 5. 17 days after his wife's death.
Let's take a quick pause here just to make some comments. I mean, this, there's definitely a lot of evidence. We watched a case for Alex Murdaugh, and they called the evidence against Alex circumstantial evidence, which is pretty much, they like to use the example like, it rained outside because it's wet, but you didn't actually see the rain fall from the sky, so you don't have direct evidence, but it happened. So that's what they call circumstantial evidence. Now, this case, in my humble opinion, is actual direct evidence. I mean, there's so much. Oh, sorry. There's so much going on just in this beginning of the opening statement. I mean, the children were buried in the backyard of their house. Uh, there was a $1 million life insurance policy from Lori's husband. So when they met, Lori was married and Chad was married. Everybody was alive. Lori had a brother, Alex. So Lori is alive. Alex is Lori's brother. Lori is married and they have 2 children. Now, to make it even worse, one of the children has autism, JJ, and he was a very young kid. I'm going to take a pause here real quick just to pray for a second for Tylee and JJ, because I know that as children of God, they're innocent victims. I pray that they have not suffered, that maybe they were drugged before the people who killed them did what they did to their bodies. And I pray that God has mercy, that God may have brought them straight to his arms, surrounding their souls with unconditional love and grace, and that they may be happy, joyous, and with no memory whatsoever of anything evil, because in heaven there is no pain. Amen. little child, JJ and Tylee, and now the life insurance policy. So all these things like start pointing out to the plans that they had, back to the psychopathy, the desire for money, power, prestige, and sex, and nothing will stand in my way. Nothing will stand in my way, to the point that the bodies were buried in their backyard. So this is evidence. It's not circumstantial evidence. The fact that they had a insurance policy, evidence. So the second trait of the psychopathy here that we found is the need for power, control, and sex. Many psychopaths seek out positions of power and authority because they enjoy the domination control of other people. And what are they saying about Chad? Chad was an average guy. Like, if you look at his pictures of before and after, he is way like better taking better care of himself after he is in a relationship with Lori. But before that, he was overweight, just like blah. There's nothing there, like bland, like nothing. Average guy. He met Lori and he was fascinated because she was fit, beautiful, blonde, long hair. He never thought possible, completely out of his league. But he realized that he could deceive her because she had a little bit of something missing in her head too. So then he placed himself in a place of authority and leadership and started to use that to gaslight her. Um, so, according to research, psychopaths may search for and secure positions of leadership in the corporate world, suggesting there is a grain of truth in the stereotype of psychopathic CEO. And in this case, right? Um, in this case, they belong to the church, and that's how Chad started his whole cult. The people who were following him and following his message, like they just read the message that Chad would determine if someone was a light or dark or like a zombie. That is not in the religion. I mean, I'm not familiar with that religion itself. The Latter Day Saints Church of Lord Jesus Christ. I think it's like a long name. But I don't think they believe in zombies. As a Christian myself and having a little bit of a knowledge of the Bible and the Word of God, which is what they use, I can tell you that yes, there is dark and light. Yes, we talk about angels and there's also demons because, in the Bible it says that every knee will bow on earth, under the earth, and in heaven. It has a lot of references to spirits being cast out by Jesus and I believe his disciples as well afterwards. So they're using all of these things and then they're making it, Chad specifically is making it very unique to his desires for money, power, prestige, and sex. He looks at Lori, he's like, I want her and I'll do whatever. I don't care about any laws. I'll do whatever to get there. So I'll tell her this is what I am. She's going to believe me and I'll use the light and dark. And then whoever gets in our way, I'll label them as a zombie and then she'll believe me. And she actually did believe him. Like you have conversations that we're going to listen to on the phone where I mean, she really believed. I'm not convinced that Chad believed any of the things he's saying. I do believe that he's fitting very nicely into the psychopathy traits. The third trait that I had here, which is the disregard for rules and laws and norms, right? Let me post this here. And if you're rewatching, you can put a comment as well. So this is a disregard for rules and norms. They let me see. Where did it go? Okay. Psychopaths do not follow the same code of ethics as most people in society. They don't have compassion, they don't have empathy, they don't have feelings, right? Which is why they often behave in immoral or illegal ways. These might include minor offenses like inappropriate comments for or profanity, or serious offenses such as crime and violence. Not all psychopaths are violent criminals, but a high percentage of those commit crimes, especially violent crimes, have psychopathic traits. Um, yeah, so that's all we're gonna talk about for now. So only in the opening statement, we were able to identify three traits of psychopathy: deception, need for power, and disregard for rules, right? Because Chad was not going according to the rules of the church or society, right? Because people started dying when they got together. And let's hear more to see, you know, to see what exactly how it transpired. But the evidence of the life insurance and the kids' bodies being found in the backyard is very, very strong. Then here's some of the comments that people from Court TV were placing. This is what a cult religion can do to your mind. As a prosecutor, he should memorize this. He should have memorized this. I don't know about that. I mean, really, I mean, the guy's being coherent. He is telling us the fact. I mean, I think that I don't see anything wrong with him reading the opening statement. Is very complex and he has a lot of evidence and a lot of timestamps. Um, so I don't have a problem with that. Then somebody says Zeke Scientologist. I don't think that Chad is a cardboard cutout. That's what I see. Like he's so empty, bland, you know. Is the judge actually there? Or is that a hologram? The judge is there, guys. I mean, the judge is there. I wonder what Chad's kids will say as the trial goes on. Yeah, Chad's kids, from my understanding, they were always on his side. They believed him. I'm not sure if they know all about Chad's beliefs, but we'll see. More will be reviewed. Um, he can't dance his opening. He could do a nice routine with sock puppets. Okay. There was the hearing many months ago, including the meeting on both sides to determine media coverage. This is what was agreed to. So they agreed to these little boxes, view of the parties and the podium here. We got the view of the judge here. And then we have the attorney, the prosecutor with the projector screen. So let's go to the next phase and see if we can find any more traits of a psychopath. We can't. No, we can't. We can't find any more. Three is enough, guys. Three is enough.
Chad Daybell and Lori Vallow got married and celebrated on a beach in Hawaii, symbolizing what he called their eternal union.
Hawaii.
Chad and Lori were preparing their wedding well before Tammy's death. Lori was shopping for wedding rings while Tammy was still alive.
No.
Now, without the earthly obstacles of spouses and young children, and with Tammy's insurance policy and the children's social security funds, they could live the life that Chad and Lori wanted. Nothing was going to stand in their way. Chapter 6. Unfortunately for this defendant, reality soon shattered their bliss. Two things led law enforcement to his and Lori's door. On October 2nd, 2019, Lori Vallow's nephew-in-law, a man named Brandon Boudreaux, was shot at in Arizona by someone from what he believed was Tyler's Jeep. Law enforcement in Arizona investigating Brandon's shooting contacted law enforcement in Fremont County, Idaho, to look for Alex Cox and for Tyler's Jeep. And you'll hear that Jeep was later found in Rexford, Idaho, in Madison County. Meanwhile, J.J. Ballow's grandmother, concerned that she hadn't seen or heard from him in months, asked police for help. The police followed up and located Lori in Rexburg, Idaho, where the police did a welfare check at Lori's apartment. Law enforcement arrived at Lori's door on November 26, 2019. When asked about Lori, Chad first told law enforcement he didn't know her very well, despite the fact that they were married and had been in a relationship for over a year. Lies by Lori to police about JJ and Tylee's whereabouts, and then a move to Hawaii, and Lori's unwillingness to present her children to law enforcement to prove their well-being led to her arrest and extradition. As Lori refused to produce her children, law enforcement continued their search for Tylee and JJ. During that search, they located a unique text message that this defendant, Chad Daybell, had sent to his wife Tammy on September 9, 2019, which was the day after Tylee Bryant's last known appearance. You'll hear from the FBI agent who found that message. But this message seemed longer than his usual text to Tammy, and it had a more conversational tone. In that text, Chad claimed he'd had an interesting morning, that he'd shot a raccoon, that he'd buried it in what they called the pet cemetery, and that he'd had a fire on the property where he burned some limb debris. When law enforcement finally went to the defendant's property the following June, they didn't find a raccoon. They found Tylee's burnt remains that were buried in the pet cemetery.
Okay, so here's where we also see that he's not that smart. I mean, seriously, if he's this mastermind murderer and leader with all these visions and powers, why would he make a comment? So I think maybe he thought he was invincible, right? Because why would he make a comment about burying this squirrel that he killed? Which, by the way, I don't like him a lot about, for any animal cruelty. But he killed the squirrel, then he buried him in the pet cemetery, and then he's saying that to his daughter or somebody on the phone, and so the police hears this and it's like, oh, they have a pet cemetery. Let me go check it out. And then they find the kids there. They find Tylee there. Like, very, very stupid of him if he killed the kids, buried them somewhere, and then mixed it up with the pet cemetery so other people know there's remains there. Like, seriously, Chad. And the whole time that he's there in court, when we get to see his face, his beep face, he's still bland. Like, there's nothing there. There's no emotion. He's just blah. And he just like sits there like he does look like a hologram. I just want to just like stop by and be like, do something. Do something, dude. Oh, look who's awake here behind me. Look who's awake. Yeah, so anyways, go back.
And they found JJ nearby, buried under a tree near a pond. Ladies and gentlemen, you've been told this would be a lengthy trial. You will hear from many witnesses. You will hear a lot of evidence. You're going to hear a lot of dates. The following is just a timeline of major events to help understand when these things took place. October 26, 2018, Chad and Lori meet in St. George, Utah. July 11, 2019, Charles Vallow, Lori's husband, is shot and killed by Alex Cox. Between August 31st and September 1st, Lori, Alex Cox, and Tylee and JJ moved to Rexburg, Idaho, just a few miles south of the defendant's home. Tylee's last known sighting was September 8, 2019. The text I just spoke of about the raccoon was sent by the defendant to his wife September 9th, 2019. JJ's last known sighting you'll hear about September 22nd. The attempted homicide of Brandon Boudreaux in Arizona was October 2nd. The shooting I mentioned of Tammy, the shooting at her, the unsuccessful shooting, October 9th, 2019. Tammy's death, October 19th, 2019. 17 days later, Chad and Lori married in Hawaii. Law enforcement did a welfare check looking for JJ November 26, 2019 in Rexburg, Idaho. November 26th and 27th, Chad and Lori leave town. June 9th, 2020, Tylee and JJ's remains are found on Chad's property. As I said, you're going to hear a lot of evidence from a lot of witnesses. And there's going to be kind of different groups of evidence you're going to hear from. You'll hear from law enforcement, some of whom will give you a broad overview of the investigation and what they did, how the search for Tylee and JJ drew to a case of murder. You'll hear how it began by people who knew Lori and Chad, the James and Elaine. You'll hear about the James and Elaine story and about their relationship with each other and how they pursued their dream, their plan for a life together. You'll hear in the defendant's own words, people referred to as obstacles, how they need to be gotten rid of. You're going to hear financial evidence. You'll hear from an FBI forensic accountant and a detective, a Social Security administrator, investigator, who will talk about the finances involved in this case. You'll hear more from law enforcement, from multiple law enforcement agencies, the Rexburg Police, the Fremont County Sheriff's Department, the FBI, Social Security Administration, about the investigation into these crimes. You will see forensic evidence. You'll see DNA testing to identify the body of Tylee. You'll see DNA testing that showed DNA from Tylee was found on at least 2 tools in the defendant's shed. You'll hear digital evidence dealing with geolocation data tied to certain phones that were used in this case. You'll hear from Hawaii law enforcement about searches they performed.
I mean, this case really has evidence like I've never seen before.
And finally, you will hear many of this defendant's own words. You will hear voice recordings of this defendant. You'll hear.
Of course you will. Of course we will.
Recorded phone calls between him and his wife, Chad Daybell. You'll read multiple texts that he and Lori sent back.
Sounds like a long way to go.
Chapter 9, what's unwritten. The defendant stands before you today, charged with multiple crimes. First-degree murder for the death of Chad Daybell.
His wife,
First-degree murder for the death of Tylee Ryan.
the kids,
First-degree murder for the death of JJ Ballo.
the boy,
Conspiracy to commit murder of Tammy Daybell. Conspiracy to commit murder
Tammy,
and grand theft by deception.
ex-wife.
The death of Tylee Ryan.
Tylee is the
Conspiracy
teenager.
to commit murder and grand theft by deception for the death of JJ Ballo.
Yeah, so those are the same
insurance
victims,
fraud.
the 3 victims. There's the
2 dead children buried in this defendant's backyard.
Lord have mercy.
The next month, his wife dead in their bed. 17 days later, this defendant marries Lori Ballo.
17 days later?
Members of the jury,
What?
days or probably weeks from now, when the evidence in this trial
17
is
days
fully
after
unfolded,
his wife
we will
died,
have the
he got
opportunity to
married.
speak with you again. And at that time, we will ask you to end this horrible narrative. Your verdict will be the link that writes the final chapter of this tragic saga. chapter that delivers justice for Tammy,
He's cooked.
justice for JJ, and justice for Tyler.
He's cooked. All right. Great job, prosecutor. Go sit down. Go sit down. What do you guys think about the
Thank you, Mr.
prosecutor? What do you guys think about? I saw a lot of comments about the sound not being great, the the way the cameras are positioned not being great. All right, guys, chill out, relax. I heard everything he said. I think that he was very coherent. Maybe he wasn't perfect. Okay, fine. We'll learn from it, right? Everything is a learning experience. But he sounded I like him. I don't know what it is. I don't know. It's just his cadence, his pace, his voice. He's not like screaming at anybody. He's not, he's just giving us the facts, but also he does put emotion where it needs to be when he talks about the victims of this case, and also when he talks about, like just now at the end, he said this horrible man, because look at all the crimes and the devastation and the fraud that is around this man. So I'm starting already to believe he's a horrible man, and just based on the evidence of the case, because one thing could be a coincidence, but all of the things. I mean, what did I write down here? A couple of things, because I couldn't even get everything, but the children buried in their backyard, his wife dying. 17 days later, he got married to Lori. Lori had a insurance policy from her ex-husband Charles' death for $1 million. So her husband dies. They have a pet cemetery in their house. They have a pet cemetery. Okay, I know some people have pet cemeteries. So, all right. Lori shopping for wedding rings before Chad's wife died, and then they get married 17 days later. Brandon, who is married to Brandon, I think he was married to Lori's niece, and he was shot. And at some point, Chad determined that Brandon was a zombie of some kind. So obviously he gets shot. I mean, a lot is happening. A lot is happening. The Social Security income that she was going to get, because the policy was not under her name. I believe it was going to be under the kid's grandparents and therefore her primary enemies. Um, just absolutely insane case. We've seen a lot of cases. We definitely watched the Murdoch case here. But this is like, there's a lot. There's a lot of information and a lot of chaos happening. A lot of evidence, in my opinion. This is like real evidence, not circumstantial at all. So let's see what so the defense counselor, if I am not mistaken, is, I forget his name. We're gonna know in a second. Pryor or okay, we're gonna know in a second. But he's by himself. Like, he doesn't have a team. Maybe he has some people at the office, but he's just gonna do the whole trial on his own. And he tried to get out of it, guys. It was like, Judge, save me. I don't want to do it. I don't want to defend this guy. This guy's crazy. He didn't say that. He didn't say that. Fine, I'm saying that. But he did ask to be removed from the defense. I believe it was because Chad didn't have any more money to pay, and then that it wasn't going to be like a feasible thing because of the, I don't know if it was just the money when he asked to be off the case. So if you guys know the reason, please make a comment. If you're watching afterwards, after the live, make a comment. Why did the attorney for Chad ask to be removed from the case? Obviously that was not granted, so he's obligated, he's being forced to defend this guy. And I think he's doing a great job. I've watched some parts of the trial. I have not watched the entire trial. I'm doing here with you guys. I'm doing this here. John Pryor is his name. Aha, I think. So, but I think he's doing a great job. I mean, for what he's been given, seriously, if I'm an attorney and I have the obligation to, defend my clients, I don't have to know if they're innocent or not. I just have to defend their rights and the procedure, like, the objections, doing all that. He's doing a great job because I would be like, dude, you're screwed. Like, you're done. There's like no hope for you. But no, his attorney is doing a good job. So let's see how he did at the opening statement, which I have not heard. And please let me know what you guys think as well.
There one that will conclude the opening statement of the state. Mr. Pryor, a couple of questions. First, is the defense going to give an opening statement now or defer until later?
Of
And
course.
second, if you are
Why
going
not?
to give an opening statement, would you prefer we take a mid-morning recess or go forward?
Judge, could we take a short recess?
Oh, he wants the recess. All right. Recess.
Okay, I think this is a good time.
The
then for
good
our
thing
mid-morning
about
break.
watching
We'll
it
go ahead and take that now.
after is that
And
we
then
can
once
just
that's
fast
concluded,
forward
Mr.
everything.
Pryor can give us a thanks statement to the defense.
All rise.
All rise for the judge. Oh no, for the jury. For the jury. Wow, what did they do? Sit an iPhone in the furthest corner of the court for the recording. Obviously, both of them. I'm reading some comments here. Where did it go? Our sound is fine. I don't know why some people are having some trouble. Okay, okay, okay. He looks guilty, but did she set him up? I want to know for sure. Okay, Kim, I think that you have the right of watching the trial and knowing for sure. That's why I'm here too. I'm like, all right, let's just see what the evidence is. Here it says Chad Daybell was excommunicated by the Church of Latter-day Saints in 2019 for promulgating teachings and doctrines contrary to the church. Interesting, Antoinette. Then we have this is the way the fee. Okay, that doesn't matter. The defense opening shall be very interesting, curious what tactic they will use. Let me see what else people said. Recess already. People are like, I want to watch it. Just want to know. I don't know about LDS much, but I suspect they'll stay and learn to forgive through the church ultimately. I'm not LDS. It's the same with the other religions, though. When you leave deconstruction, I don't think it's that word either. I don't know what Darby's talking about here. Uh, Rocky, I don't know how it's handled in the US, but where I live, insanity is only on the table if the defendant couldn't tell right from wrong. So every quarter up makes it impossible. That's exactly how it is done in the US as well. Tiny pig, pro tip if you're holding a mic, put it almost to your lips when you speak. That's actually true. When I sing, I have to hold the microphone very close to my lips because it gives you more control of everything. Not like weird, just like very close, not kissing it, not touching it. Um what else? What else? What else? Darby excommunicated was when you kicked out, though. I don't mean kicked out. What's he being charged with? He's being charged with 3 counts of homicide, insurance fraud, and I think other things. It just surprises me all the crazy people where they live. Yes, and what happened with the other case? What's happening with the other case in Idaho? Brian Kohlberger being accused of murdering the college kids. Stabbing. I think several victims. That is another case from Idaho that is not going to trial maybe until next year. But it's just like, what the heck is going on in Idaho, guys? Let's take a look at it. What else? My biggest question through Virgo is if they will, what's the word? It's the term for leaving the LDS. I wonder if they will have to relay the foundation of their beliefs. You know, let me see. Obviously, both of them were in a religious psychosis. I wonder what their long-term plan was to cover up the kid's disappearance. Yeah, it is very interesting when you hear their conversations on the phone, and Lori explained to Melanie Gibbs that the kids were going to be fine, and she knows the kids are dead at that point. I'm pretty sure. It's like, what are you thinking? What is in your head? Like, what is in the mind of a psychopath? And that's really interesting to me that they have that belief. I don't know. Is it real? Because in my observation as of right now, from being an outsider, Chad doesn't see I don't think Chad believed what he was preaching. I think he was using it as a manipulation tactic to get Lori to listen to him and to be with Lori forever. Because I think that's the only thing that ever mattered to him, having money, power, and having Lori. I think that's what he wanted. And then Lori was very easily deceived. She was very easily deceived, and then she was just like, all right, whatever he tells me, I go with. So we'll see. Let's go back to the trial here with the opening statement from the defense starting now.
Please have the jury, bro.
Mr. Rock.
Prior is the defense ready to proceed?
Yes, Your Honor. May I
Welcome
have
to the
full
jury.
permission to enter the well?
You may.
Thank you.
And maybe check that microphone to make sure it is working.
All right,
Okay?
Judge, we get it. Let the guy talk. Oh, they have a handheld microphone, huh?
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. As
good
an
morning.
introduction, I'm John Pryor. I'm the defense attorney for Mr. Daybell. And I'm from Meridian, Idaho. I'm an
What are you gonna
attorney
do,
from
right?
Meridian, Idaho, over here on the west side of the state. I want to talk to you a little bit today, and at my age, video presentations are not something that would come easy to me. So I'm just going to talk to you a little bit about my view of the case and the facts and evidence. And what's important are facts and evidence. I think that when we went through the
Right.
jury selection process, we talked about facts and we talked about evidence. And the judge gave you an instruction to talk to you a little bit about you take into consideration the facts of this case and not be distracted by other things. Don't be distracted by speculation. Don't be distracted by guesses or assumptions or hunches. It all comes down to facts and evidence. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the facts and evidence of this case.
Like the fact that the kids were behind
Chad
the
Daybell,
house.
And I'm learning this, and I've had some time to learn about this because it
I'm
didn't
sorry
come
you had
natural
some
to
time
me.
with him.
But Chad Daybell went on what's called a mission early on in his life. And I guess what a mission is, I'm not familiar with that, but I guess what a mission is they go away to a location and they talk to people about their religious beliefs.
Oh, okay. He's
And
talking
Chad's
about like a
faith, that
church
was
mission.
important as part of his faith. And when they return from these missions, they start the process of moving on with their lives. And when Chad got back from doing his mission in New Jersey, he met Tammy Daybell.
Okay, good.
Another fact that I discovered, and you'll hear a little bit about, is that Chad had an extended engagement, had an extended by his faith standards romance before they got married.
Not by his face
Chad and
standards.
Tammy dated for approximately 6 months. And what I understand is by their nature, 6 months is an extended dating process.
Well, longer
before
than
you end up getting
17
married.
days.
So after 6 months, they got married. They were married in Utah. And
Utah.
proceeded then to have children. They have 5 children. Now
Wow.
all 5 adult children.
Wow. Be fruitful,
At
guys.
some
Be
point, they
fruitful.
moved back here to Idaho, or moved to Idaho. And they started a small publishing company. And you'll hear testimony that the publishing company was predominantly run by Tammy. Tammy managed it. Tammy was the brains behind the company. And Tammy basically took the reins and did everything that was necessary to move this publishing company. It was a small publishing company, a very small publishing company. And what they did is basically publish
Who
books.
cares? What about the
Chad would write
bodies?
these books.
Whatever.
And he
Who
would write
cares?
these books about his religious experiences. In his faith, he had certain beliefs, the faith that he practiced. You know, when he went on his mission, when he, read his interpretation of the books that he used for his faith, he started writing books about things that were consistent with his faith. Things like premonitions. We've all heard of premonitions, about being able to predict things, about being able to see maybe when things happen. And
See,
some
people are
believe
saying
in
two
that,
dead
some
children
people
in the
don't.
backyard,
Some
one
people
dead wife
personally
in the
experienced that,
cemetery.
or have
Exactly.
been
So
here.
who cares about his premonitions?
But he writes about his premonitions. He writes about good and evil, and what it means
Sure.
to be good, and what it means to be evil. He writes about dark and light.
Okay.
He writes about subjects that are a little darker, like death, and
Okay.
maybe the coming of the end of things, and when his savior in his mind is going to come
For me,
back,
of
and
Jesus is
and
a
maybe
matter of
there'll be some
celebration
kind of
to us
redemption of some
Christians.
sort. But
It's
his
not,
books covered a
it's not
lot of
dark.
subjects like that, and they were all based on fiction. In other words, he was writing these books about theories and things that came into his head, and he would write these stories. But he also wrote
His
children's
delusion.
books, and he wrote books for teenagers. And he wrote these books.
So, okay, so here Pryor is saying that it was fiction, but we understand that Chad was going around town preaching and holding seminars, that these were actual facts in his head. Okay, so for his defense attorney to say it's fiction, it doesn't match the story. It doesn't match the story. Maybe he could say, Chad was under the impression that these thoughts that were coming to his mind were things that he needed to write about. But I don't think he was sitting there writing as a fiction. Let me create a story because light and dark is in the Bible. The return of Jesus Christ is in the Bible. And when you believe that, you have a faith that that's true, right? I have a faith that that's true. It's going to happen. So it's not a delusion. It's not a fiction. It's based on my personal experience with God and my personal spiritual belief. Now, I can't make anybody else, believe that, but it's true for me. It's not a delusion. Now the other things that Chad started to write about and the levels of the degrees of darkness and the zombies, those are things I never heard about, and I believe those are delusions. But I don't believe that he was thinking this is fiction. I think he used that to control, manipulate people to do what he wanted. So let's go back and see what else he says.
Books about adventures and then some crazy ideas about things that kids and teenagers get involved in.
Scylla said, are we just going to forget he had a first
In
wife? Also, he had
about
another wife?
October of 2018, Chad was going out and he was invited by one of the witnesses that you'll hear in this case to speak about his books. And this was not uncommon. He would travel and he would be asked to say, well, come and talk about some of the
Who
things
the
that
heck
you,
would invite
you
this
believe in.
bland guy
He talked
to
about
speak?
these premonitions, some life experiences.
Premonitions.
You're going to hear testimony about that. And he was invited on one particular occasion in late October. And he attended this, and while he was there trying to sell his books, and like most of us who are business people, the focus of these meetings really was for Chad to try to get his books published, because that's how he made a living.
Okay.
And he was there in one of his booths trying to promote his books, and he laid them out there. And this beautifully stunning woman named Lori Vallow comes up. And she starts giving him a lot of attention. And she pursued him. And she encouraged him. And you'll hear testimony
History
that she went
Underfoot
so
says,
far
I
as to
didn't know he wrote
grab
books
behind
for
the booth
kids. Yikes.
and sort of help him in trying to sell some of his books. She obviously had an interest, and maybe she felt that he was this publisher, or maybe she had an opinion. You'll hear testimony about that.
This is the story of Chad
And then
Daybell.
after the seminar, there was a length of time where there was no contact between the two of them. Month and a half, 2 months.
Lori made him do it.
And during that time, Chad Daybell went on his day-to-day life. He'd been married to Tammy for some 29 years, has no remarkable background of any kind. I think the testimony we'll offer will show I think he had a speeding ticket in 2005. But Lori Vallow was a different story. Lori Vallow was someone who, right out of high school, married her first husband.
Here it
Yeah,
says,
your
Lori
testimony.
bad, Chad good. There it is.
That marriage was very short-lived. very short-lived. She then married husband number 2 a few years later. And again, very short-lived marriage. And there's some testimony indication that there were some problems with the marriage that caused the breakup. But the concern seems to be, the theme seems to be that Lori's brother Alex, and you're going to hear about Alex Cox. Alex Cox was Lori's protector. Alex Cox would do anything and everything to protect, aid, and assist Lori Vallow in whatever her endeavors. Without
Somebody
unbridled
said, well,
question.
Lori filed for divorce when
Anything.
she realizes he blames her. I didn't know they were still
And if
married.
Alex Cox even perceived that there was a problem, Alex Cox reacted. You're going to hear testimony that in 2007, I believe it was in August of 2007, Lori Vallow had finished up going through her third marriage with Joseph Ryan. It was a tumultuous, you'll hear testimony that it was a tumultuous marriage, a terrible marriage. And Lori Vallow made accusations against Joseph Ryan of abusing their child, Tylee. Yes, the same Tylee. And during one of the visits in 2007, folks, and I want to tell you, you're going to hear testimony that in 2007, Chad Daybell didn't even know Lori Vallow
Here
existed.
comes the buzz. Woo, woo.
But Alex Cox, after one of the exchanges and the visitations with Tylee, Alex Cox approached Joseph Ryan and shot him with a taser and assaulted him. Was eventually charged with aggravated assault,
Who is Joseph?
was eventually put in jail, and had this on his record. And there was representation, the facts would suggest that at the time Joseph Ryan feared for his life. This was a serious situation. But it set the pattern for what we're dealing with Alex Cox. Whenever there was a problem or a threat to Lori Vallow, you'll hear testimony that Alex Cox came to the rescue. But Alex Cox would run without even question and do whatever was necessary to solve Lori Vallow's problems. We're going to fast forward then to 2019. Lori Vallow is still married to Charles Vallow. And the prosecuting attorney mentioned this, yes. Chad Daybell at that point, coming in January and February, started to have communications with Lori Vallow. And yes, folks, it turned into an inappropriate relationship. 2019 and forward. And yes, he was engaging in discussions. He was engaging in contact with her, all of the things that
All of the things. He was
prosecutor
doing
talked
all
about
of the
in terms
things.
of a relationship.
Okay, fine. I'm not here to judge him being with Lori. It's
But
not.
subsequent to the seriousness of this relationship getting rolling, Alex Cox was at a visitation in 2019 with Charles Vallow. And Lori Vallow was there. Tylee Ryan was there.
So Charles Vallow was Lori's husband, right? And he was alive. He was alive when she met Chad Daybell. Then Alex, Lori's brother, who would do everything for her, protect her, just always, do whatever she wanted him to do. And she would manipulate Alex as well, from what we're going to see. All of a sudden, what happens? Alex is in a house with Charles, and I think he dies.
JJ was there. They were all present.
The kids were
And
there.
during that altercation and that supposed visit, much like with Joseph Ryan, Alex Cox took out a gun and shot Charles Vallow.
And she's already talking to Chad.
And then after calling 911, he then finished the job and walked up to him in close
That's
range.
crazy. I'm going to put that in my bucket of evidence.
Now, you're going to hear testimony that in some way Chad Daybell was implicated in that. And,
course.
and you're going to hear further testimony that he was not. You're going to hear testimony and see documentation that suggests that the prosecuting attorney on review of this indicated that there is no likelihood of conviction of Chad Daybell.
Okay, so Chad met Lori. Lori was married to Charles. Then Lori and Chad start talking, texting, sexing, whatever the heck they did. And then all of a sudden, her husband dies. If Chad didn't have anything to do with this, fine, fine. We'll take it. We'll say Chad didn't have anything to do with it. But the fact that Lori didn't have anything to do with it, that's a coincidence because Lori was gonna get $1 million from the life insurance policy if her husband died. And guess what? Her husband died. Who killed him? Her brother. Her brother. So
You'll hear testimony that Chad Daybell had nothing to do with the execution by Alex Cox, Charles Vallow. And the same for Brandon Boudreaux. You will
this is
hear
victim
that
number
Chad
one.
Daybell is not being pursued
Who
for
is
any
Randall?
involvement in the Brandon Boudreaux attempted murder.
Randall.
Those occurred, and those are separate, as well as the Charles Vallow. So what we have is we have a situation where someone who's 29 years old, Chad Daybell, 29 years of marriage with Tammy Daybell, no discernible issues in his life. And then Lori Vallow comes in the picture, Miss Texas. You'll hear
Miss
testimony about this beautiful, vivacious woman, very sexual person, and very manipulative.
Okay.
And she knows how to get what she wants.
But nobody
she
can make
drove
anybody
Chad
else
Daybell.
kill little kids, especially if they're your kids. Like nobody can do that, no matter how manipulative she was. So let's see here what some of the comments are talking about. Here we go. At Lori and Alex, but Lori didn't do this till after Chad introduced his beliefs to her. Wow, I know this was going to be the defense. Well, this is what they got. You know, I'm not complaining about the defense's method. I'm just saying this makes sense. What else? It was Chad's idea to kill the zombies. Teresa, that doesn't. That sounds like it's not from this world, but unfortunately, we are living in this crazy world. Mike G808 says 1980s called once it's technology back Idaho. What else? What else? What else? Wendy says this guy took his bar exam at the local tavern. I actually think he's gonna do a great job. Not in the opening statement. I don't think he's doing a great job right now, but eventually. So let's see. JS, that's true, but so what? He killed his wife. I mean, it's too many deaths, guys. Akira says shots every time we hear zombies. No, no, no. Let's not do shots, guys. Too early in the day. But if you guys want to start doing the shots, go right ahead. Chelsea said, here we go. Blame it on Alex. It's the only card he can play. Okay, that's fine. Dawn Moore said he is being pursued in other murders. Can we get to those, please? So one thing is that he just mentioned the name Rendo, and I don't know who that is. A random guy? Like, who is this guy? So Don Moore, a lot of people in that family gathering are deceased now. Akira is saying, imagine the pillow talk like Neo Tyson, but add zombies. Yikes. Who didn't see this coming? Blame the dad guy. Chad was a cult leader. Chad nickname in jail is Lug. Someone keep an eye on Wendy. Communication equals the storm. Spicy. Jerry doesn't like the blame game, sir. Chad paid every penny he had in the world for this opening statement. Correct. I know. I don't like the opening statement. I don't like it. I think again, the defense is doing a great job as a lawyer. When the witnesses are being questioned, from what I've seen, which was just a few of them, but this opening statement is like, no, BS. No, we don't believe you. Get out of here. Let's see what else he's gonna be able to. What else he's gonna try to pull off here for
Into a
Chad?
relationship, and an unfortunate relationship, you know, that Chad
Not for
fell
him.
into.
Chad was super happy with the relationship.
After that, things started rolling, and issues started happening, but eventually,
Issues?
yes,
That
there
started
was a
happening.
murder,
Heads were rolling.
and there was a burial. And you've heard discussion about the backyard of Chad Daybell. Well, we have a 4.5 acre farm.
The cemetery?
in Fremont County, Idaho. And you'll hear testimony that the body of J.J. Vallow was discovered behind an irrigation pond and a tree out in the pasture. So technically, yes, maybe the backyard, but more accurately described as the pasture, hidden behind a tree.
Dude,
You're going to hear
please.
testimony that also in the middle of this pasture
That doesn't make it any
was a
better.
raspberry patch, former raspberry patch that was then turned into a place for them to bury the cats, the dogs, and all of the animals on the farm. Okay,
This guy shouldn't be
again,
allowed
out
to
in
have
the
any
pasture
animals.
of the field and not the backyard. You hear testimony about that. You're going to hear from 4 experts that I'm going to bring forward. And these 4 experts, the first one is going to be Dr. Greg Hampenkian. And Dr. Hampenkian is a bit of a notable local from Boise State University. And Dr. Hampenkian is a DNA expert, considered one of the best DNA experts. He's been involved and has significant work that he's done on both the defense and for the prosecution. He was involved and led the team with Amanda Knox in Italy that got her exonerated because of the DNA evidence. He has substantial experience. And anybody or anyone who knows anything about DNA goes to Dr. Hampenkian first, because he is the guy. And Dr. Hampenkian is going to talk a little bit about the DNA evidence that's found on the scene. Dr. Hampenkian is going to talk about the fingerprint on the plastic that J.J. Vallow was discovered in, was that of Alex Cox. Dr. Hampenkian is going to talk about the hair sample that was found on the plastic of Alex Cox and that it was Lori Vallow. Dr. Hampenkian is going to talk about several, and I mean several other hairs that were found on the plastic of J.J. Vallow. But he's also going to say that there was no DNA evidence, no hair sample of Chad Daybell on Tylee Ryan or on J.J. Vallow.
Okay, but one thing that we do observe in this whole story is how Chad always distanced himself when it was time to talk to other people, to talk about the light in the dark and the zombies. Lori was always the person who passed on the message. And I think this actually is due to the fact that another sign of a psychopath is the exploitation of others for personal gain. So here it says a psychopath will use, abuse, and exploit or others, especially when it means getting something they want. So let's say Chad wants Lori and he wants to have a free life with Lori with no kids. Which, by the way, they actually wrote it down when they were looking for property in Hawaii. They said clean couple, no kids, and the kids were alive. So, you know, that's evidence right there. Right there is evidence. We don't need anything else. But the fact that he wanted this life with Lori, right? So now he has Alex, who is somebody who's always protecting Lori, doing what she wants. She can easily manipulate him. They're both telling Alex something about their beliefs. Chad has Lori completely captivated and on board with all the beliefs, completely believing him. Is it far fetched that Chad manipulated Lori and Alex into actually doing the deed and killing the kids and burying them and putting them in plastic bags, knowing that didn't Alex was gonna be able to do it and not touching anything, but actually being the mastermind? Is it that far fetched? I don't think so. So this opening statement is not really giving me any doubts, any type of okay, maybe. No, I'm still very much into the prosecution is there's too many facts for anybody to deny. So again, on the exploitation of others for personal gain, for personal gain, psychopaths would use, abuse, and exploit others when it means getting something they want. The pursuit for power, wealth, and fame, there are no lengths they won't go to in order to achieve their goals. So killing a teenage girl, yes. Killing a little boy that has autism, sure. This is bound to leave many casualties in their path, and a psychopath will have no remorse when they need to throw someone under the bus. Right now, he's throwing Alex and Lori under the bus to get ahead, even when this person has helped them along the way. Need I say more here? Need I say more? Okay. Unbelievable how this fits Chad to a T. So let's get back to John.
You're then going to hear from Dr. Raven. Dr. Raven is a forensic pathologist, and she's going to talk a little bit about the circumstances surrounding Tammy Daybell. And what Dr. Raven is going to say is that there's no indication that this is either a homicide or any other crime, and that the only conclusion she can come to is you can't determine what the cause of death was. There's no way to determine it. Tammy Daybell was buried. You'll hear testimony about that. And then a short time later, the police officers showed up and they dug her body up after she'd been buried, after she was laid to rest, and then continued after the body was pulled out of the ground and continued to examine it for whatever they were looking for. And what you're going to find is based on that, Dr. Raven's going to say you can't determine what the cause of death is. You're going to hear testimony from the Daybell children, from the children themselves, 4 of the 5 children, I think, three or 4 of the 5 children. They're going to talk about their mother's health struggles. They're going to talk about their mother's use of various medicinal treatments that she would use, oils that she would put on her leg, medicine and different herbs that she would take.
There's nothing wrong with herbs and oils, please. Okay. The natural approach, the oils and the herbs are great depending on what it is. I don't know what the heck they're talking about. But the fact that Chad is manipulating his children, his 5 adult kids, to come in and talk in a way that will be negative to their deceased mother's image is disgusting. It's disgusting because, he still maintains he still maintains to his kids some type of story that is strong enough for his kids to think, yeah, we need to go to court and defend dad. Like that has been their position all along. So the fact that John just mentioned that the kids are going to come in and testify about their mom using natural approaches to her health is like, okay, what's your point, dude? Like, what is your point? I don't like that.
And that her mother was suffering from
Have some
that her mother
respect.
was suffering from a number of maladies, and that she would refuse to go see a doctor or get it treated. And Dr. Raven's going to enlighten you a little bit about some of the circumstances regarding Tammy Daybell. You're then going to hear from Patrick Eller. He's a forensic digital data examiner. And Patrick Eller is someone who has spent his life in the military working for various agencies, and we'll talk a little bit about that, within the government to do data retrieval and data research. And he's going to talk a little bit about the phone records that are involved in this case. He's going to specifically talk about the travels of Alex Cox, because you are going to hear testimony that Alex Cox went to Chad Daybell's property on the 9th of September. You're going to hear that Alex Cox approached Chad Daybell's property a half a dozen other, 5 or 6 other times. You're going to hear testimony that Alex Cox was there on the 23rd. And you're going to hear where Alex Cox was in a number of other times and places in his whereabouts and his travels for about a 2.5 month period. And Patrick is going to, offer you some information and data to support all of that. And finally, you're going to hear from a forensic anthropologist, and his name's Eric Bartlink. And Mr. Bartlink is going to talk to you a little bit about the nature and the nature of how the remains of Tylee were burned. Eric Bartlink is going to talk to you a little bit about the lack of complete skeletal remains and why, when Tylee was dug down in the ground, there was not a complete set of.
See, here's some comments that people are picking up on the same thing I was saying, you know. The children are, well, I wasn't saying that. They were saying children turning on their mother, how sad. Then Catherine said the children are evil too if they try to help defend Chad. If they try. Okay. History underfoot. Tammy was killed no matter what their kids say about herbs. This case is surreal, guys. Luna says John Pryor was hired, then Chad ran out of money. Then he became a court appointed. He's not a public defender. No, he's not. Chaos coordinator. Okay, great. So now this guy's got the kids coached on what to say. How does he know what they will say? Lady Sapphire. Wow, his children are testifying for him. I figured they have stood by him this whole time. That's what it sounds like, guys. Unfortunately, Joy Anna said Lori is already convicted, my guy. Explain the 2 dead children in your client's backyard. He's like, well, it's not his backyard. It's like a little further down. That's what he said, literally. Mike G808 says, so it's just coincidence that all these people tied to Valo Daybell died. Exactly. That's the theory. Then let's see. Catherine, Chad paid for all these experts, so Pryor has to really pump it up. Hello, Billy. Jimbo. Well, we know he was in Hawaii partying. Beth Justice says, I'm not sure about if the jurors have kids, but I do know they were all asked if they could handle seeing graphic photos of 2 children and a mother. Oh my God, that's unbelievable. I would not be able to see that, I don't think. Let's see. Chaos coordinator says, I don't recall Chad having any cattle, horses, sheep, or any farm animals living outside near his backyard. LOL, this guy thinks he's fooling the jury by changing the names of things. Who got into his house and strangled his wife? Chad was right next to her when she died. So, you know. JS says circumstances and evidence ties him. And this is not circumstantial and evidence. It's circumstances and evidence. They always wonder why the raspberry tasted so bad. Oh, God. Jane says, how did the 2 kids get buried in your client's backyard, sir? Cosmic, did Chad prep him on how to BS your way through brainwashing and yapping? I like this a lot. Okay, let's go to John. I feel so bad for him because this is a disaster of a defense. It's not his fault. It's not the attorney's fault. It's just a disaster of a defense.
Skeletal remains, in fact, there were a number of pieces of that were missing.
It's cruel to watch this. It's cruel.
You're going to hear a lot of evidence, and the judge has talked to us a little bit about not making a decision until you hear all of the evidence. And there's a specific jury instruction that talks about that. The jury instruction is, consider all the evidence. Listen to the instructions from the court on how you're to proceed. Listen to the arguments.
We are
of the
listening.
Prosecuting attorney.
We're
and
listening.
The defense. And then and only then do you make your decision. And at the conclusion of all that evidence, and at the conclusion of the judge's instructions, the arguments of both of the defense attorneys, I'm going to ask you folks to return a verdict not guilty. Thank you, folks. Thank you for your time.
That was a disaster of an opening statement.
All right, that
Not his
concludes
fault.
The opening statement of the defense, then. This time we will commence with presenting evidence. I understand the state does have a first witness to follow.
Okay, we're gonna pause here because I want to do the I want to continue with the witnesses at another time on another video. We're going to do the whole trial. We're going to do a trial marathon. But before we go there, real quick, we're going to go through these traits of a psychopath. Okay. Let's talk about what we remember so far, right? What can I remember so far? So far, I can remember that Chad Daybell is he was indicted for 3 murders with the possibility of a death penalty. So he's being indicted for the murder of his ex-wife Tammy Daybell, of Tylee Vallow and JJ Vallow, who were 2 kids that were Lori Vallow's kids, right? The kids were found in Chad Daybell's backyard, buried underground. And Tammy, his ex-wife, she died at the house. Chad was present. He called the kids, and they called the ambulance. She was determined to have died, I believe, from natural causes or suffocation or not being able to breathe. But that is very suspicious because Chad was right next to her. Okay, but they're saying no, it's just a coincidence that everybody's dying. We heard about Alex, that is Lori's brother. We heard about Charles, Lori's ex-husband, who also died. We heard that Lori had $1 million to receive from the life insurance policy, that she found out she was not the beneficiary any longer, and she got really mad, and that the grandparents of the kids probably were the beneficiaries now. But she told Chad in communication, I believe by text or email, that don't worry, my love, I will still get $4,000 a month from the Social Security for the kids. We also know that Tammy was married to Chad for about 20 years, and she died. And 17 days later, Chad married Lori. We also know that Lori was shopping for rings, wedding rings, before Tammy died. Let me see if I made any other notes of the evidence. So far, we also heard that Brandon was shot. Brandon, who was Lori has a niece whom I forgot the name. So Lori has a niece. The niece believed Lori and Chad's beliefs. Brandon, the niece's husband, did not. So there was an attempt of a shooting to shoot Brandon. Somebody tried to shoot Brandon. So this is what we found out from the opening statements. I mean, a lot of evidence, a lot of things that I believe that are unquestionable, like the bodies. The bodies are unquestionable, right? The marriage is unquestionable. The death of the previous spouses. What a coincidence that a married couple meets, gets very involved, and both of them have spouses who died. Like, what a coincidence. It's not a coincidence. This is called evidence. So back to the psychopath traits here, which I believe that he's gonna fall into this. He does seem like a very empty, like a shell. And usually the psychopaths are like a shell because they don't have emotions. They are able to experience like anger, rage, uh, sexual pleasure, pride, certain things they're able to experience, but not love, peace, compassion, hope. So, psychopaths. What is a psychopath? What the heck is a psychopath? We no longer, professional psychologists. They do not diagnose anybody as a psychopath. They diagnose people as having antisocial personality disorder, which is a serious and chronic personality disorder. Chronic. There's no cure for it, guys. So it affects the person's mood, thinking, decision making, and behavior. as well as the ability to function, interact with others, maintain close relationships. Sociopaths and psychopaths describe individuals more severe forms of this personality disorder, but psychopaths represent the most extreme and dangerous because they often engage in criminal, cruel, or socially irresponsible behavior. So, some of the signs: superficial charm and charisma. I don't see any charm from Chad Daybell at all. Like, let me put a picture of him here real quick. Chad Daybell. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness, my goodness. Just his face, like it just makes you want to like punch something. Let me get this one. No, this one here. This, my friends, is Chad Daybell. This guy, like this guy here. He does not seem to me to be full of charisma and charm. Even when he is smiling, like it's like a fake smile. See, like it's the same smile. See, it's like, "Mm, this is what I gotta do." This here are the kids. This is JJ, beautiful, and Tylee, and this is Alex, her brother. This is Lori. You know, they say she's stunning and beautiful. Okay, maybe she looks a little odd here because I think she went full on cray cray in her trial, and I am not trying to judge, but if you watch some of the videos that are on YouTube, she makes really strange faces and has strange behavior. But here's her at her, when she met him, and she, who is out of his league for his own words, met this guy with a triple chin, and he was like, wow, Now this is Charles, that is Lori's ex-husband who also died. Um, so yeah, I mean, no charm or charisma, in my opinion. This is him giving his talks, and Lori's listening to him like, oh my God, I love him so much. I can't. Like, I love him so much. So, just like, let's see, this is their wedding. Even in the Hawaiian, I mean, maybe here he looks a little bit happier, but just no in my opinion, no charisma. So I'm gonna say the superficial charm and charisma. I don't get it. If you guys get it, please put a comment down below because I don't get that part. Now, next we have unnecessary cruelty or a mean streak. Okay, so the cruelty, lashing out aggressively, biting, gossip, they hurt, their entertainment when they hurt someone or embarrass. Cruelty and meanness are hallmark signs of a psychopath and typically lead to a pattern violating the rights of others. So I'm just going to say we don't have any actual proof of that. But if they do prove that Chad was involved in these murders, cruelty is all over the place, right? Because the kids were not only killed, but they were dismembered. So they were put in plastic bags and then they were buried in the backyard, like nothing, like they were not human. And that is an immense sign of extreme cruelty. Um, we have the and unnecessary, that's the word that they used here in the article. Another trait of a psychopath is lying, exaggeration, dishonesty. Many psychopaths are prone to pathological lying. They may exaggerate the truth to get their way, inflate their ego, right? I'm the leader of the 144,000, the last of the earth before God comes back, to get other people to feel and think the way they want to. Normal people generally feel guilty or at least a little worried about being caught in a lie, but a psychopath's lack of conscience makes lying a guilt-free activity. And the more he lied, the more prestige and power he got. So the more he continued to lie, and then so on. We have another trait from a psychopath, which is lack of accountability and playing the blame game. Just now, we saw that happening in the opening statements, right? We have the blame game. It wasn't Chad, it was Lori. It wasn't Chad, it was Alex. It wasn't Chad, it was everybody else. Um, Need for power, control, and dominance. We talked about this one. Sadistic enjoyment of pain and suffering. Um, I'm not gonna go into this one because I haven't seen anything regarding that yet. Boredom and thrill-seeking behaviors. I haven't seen anything regarding that yet. Disregard for rules, laws, and norm. We did talk about this when the prosecutor mentioned that he didn't care about any rules or laws. He was willing to do whatever it took for his benefits. Unaffected and unafraid of consequences. I do believe that he does show through the facts a tendency of separating himself, right? So to avoid consequences, maybe. And then we have detached, cold, and callous demeanor. Apathetic demeanor. The difference in the structure of their brains. Here you go. The difference in the structure of their brains are believed to limit their ability to experience a normal range of human emotions, making them less likely to experience strong feelings. Situations where other people are sad, upset, anxious, or excited, a psychopath may seem oddly detached or apathetic. We haven't heard that yet, but we are going to hear some testimony about Chad's behavior during the funeral of his ex wife and shortly after she passed, and how some people thought he looked a little detached. Um, a history of childhood behavior problems. We haven't heard that. Trail of short broken relationship. We haven't heard that. I mean, he was married for over 20 years. Exploitation of others for personal gain. We did mention that when we are visiting the possibility that Chad influenced Alex to kill Charles, the first victim, Lori's ex-husband. Also calculated is strategic planning. We're definitely going to see that because Chad and Lori made the mistake, I guess, to write down to other people like, we're looking for a home in Hawaii. We are just a couple, clean couple, no kids, no kids. So they had a plan, right? They oh, she's getting the $4,000 from Social Security. They had a plan that they were pursuing. So calculated plan, yes. A lack of conscience, we don't know. Abnormal ways of thinking. I mean, talk about abnormal in this case. I mean, zombies, and you're the leader. You're the like the last guy that God chose, and you need to be married to Lori because you were married to Lori in a past life. Yeah, very abnormal to me. Poor attention span, loss of interest, violence tendencies, abuse, aggression, hostile and oppositional by nature, masters of deception. I think masters of deception is the best one here. Um, and it's just so sad. This case is so sad. If it wasn't for the victims of this case, it would be entertaining, and it is for educational purposes interesting to enter the mind of a psychopath and just watch the traits. Because my only time that I actually met somebody that had narcissistic personality disorder, NPD, which is a form of psychopathy. Now, narcissistic personality disorder is different than narcissism, right? We all have a little bit of narcissism, meaning we can all, feel a little bit too good about ourselves and love ourselves too much and look in the mirror too much. That's a narcissism trait. Now, the narcissistic personality disorder is someone that is lacking the amygdala that I talked to you guys about. And when I met and interacted with this person and had a kind of a relationship with this guy, I thought I was going crazy for like 2 years. I'm like going crazy, you know. But once I finally learned what he was, and there's something missing on the brain, all of that, I was like, okay, so that's the only way I can actually understand, right? Because I couldn't understand, um, just couldn't understand how the guy was so cruel and enjoyed suffering and enjoyed the emotional pain and all of that. So I just didn't understand. And it made so much easier for me when I finally understood that it had nothing to do with me. It was really, it's just the way they're wired, right? So let me share this with you guys. It's the brain of a psychopath. I want to, why is it not? Okay, here you go. Because I just had to change the other screen. Okay, so here's some images, okay, of the brain. So the normal brain, we have the orbital cortex right here. Look at that. And you see how you have lighting it up? The psychopath doesn't have that. Like it just doesn't have it. It's black. On this one, we have a normal brain. Amygdala. See, the amygdala is lighting up here. And then here, like, let me see if I can make this any bigger. Go back to this. So amygdala here, there's like a purple mark, and here it's black, blank, doesn't have it. So all over the brain, when you have these going on, he doesn't have it. He does have the yellow mass, the green mass, all of that going on, but he doesn't have this whole thing here that impacts human emotion. See how the medial prefrontal cortex here, all of this purple is black in the psychopath. All of this yellow is purple. So it's a complete different brain, you know, and only by looking at something like that, I can understand how people can be as cruel and how such horrible things can happen, really. So on that note, we're going to end here this live, but we are going to watch the rest of the trial on the next live. I'm going to make the video available so you can hit the notification bell. I hope this was informational and educational for you as it was for me. It's very interesting to watch these stories unfold, and very important for us to always be aware of the type of people that can pop up in our lives. Hi, Whisper. Good morning. Hello, baby. I love this setup because I have my dog right here on my computer desk. Um, and he spends time with me when I'm working. I love it, love it, love it, love it, love it, love it, love it. So I'll see you guys on the next one where we're gonna start with the first witness, right? And this is the prosecution case going first. Prosecution case is still actually going on, by the way. And I can't wait to see you guys again. Have a great day. Thanks for watching.